James. I'm a senior at Boston College. I'm studying linguistics.
Okay. No, I'll let you know I'm at James's house. Okay, yeah. No, I love you too. Okay, bye.
So back in high school, mostly junior year, going into the beginning of senior year, I was dating this girl named Annie. She lives basically down the street from me, and we were on and off, sort of up and down, for better part of a year, a little over a year. This particular story takes place in March when we were on a break. How we came to be on a break is a whole other story, but that particular night we were seeing a band called the Nat Osborne Band. Excellent music. They call themselves like avant-garde jazz. It was my friend Ryan's birthday and he really got into them. I guess we sort of started a tradition where I took Ryan to concerts on his birthday. The main thing you have to know about Ryan is he's like a potato, a hobbit, and a very sweet one at that.
Miss Marino would use that as an example.
Yeah.
Hey, that's your last cigarette today, right?
Ryan,
Yeah.
we leave at 5:30 and we walk to Larchmont Station.
Right, yeah. Cool. Well, I mean, the show doesn't start until like 9:30, and Nat Osborne's not going to be on right away.
We still have to buy tickets at the front door, and Nat Osborne and the rest of the bands are small, but it's still a cheap concert venue in Brooklyn. We should get there early.
You're right. I'm so excited though. Like, I never thought this band would even perform. And I got to meet Dustin. Are we still taking the train with Annie?
Nah, she's meeting us in Brooklyn.
What you have to know about the Nat Osborne Band is that Annie lived in a house that we referred to as the commune. And that's because in the commune there was Annie, there was her mom, who we called Sneaky. There were these two older individuals, Tom and Rachel, who were not married and didn't like commitment, so they got a dog instead of having a kid named him Paco. And most importantly for this story, there was a guy named Dustin. He was called the Brunkle. He was like the brother uncle. He's a great guy, and he was the guitarist for a band called the Nat Osborne Band.
You good to go?
Yeah, I got my docs.
All right, let's get going.
Hey, James, I really appreciate you taking me out tonight. Are you sure you're cool with Annie coming along? I mean, I know why you're saying she should come and all, but like, you're cool with it?
Thank you for checking, but Annie knows Dustin. She can make sure we get in.
All right. Cool. I actually haven't seen her in a while.
We should, let's get headed out.
Me and Ryan ended up going with Annie. We didn't anticipate that we would not be dating at the time, so it was really, really awkward because we hadn't talked in a couple months until I texted her the day of the concert, and I was like, "Hey, like, can you still take me to this concert and get me in for, you know, reduced rate?" And she was like, "Yeah, I guess I'll meet you there."
I'm glad you guys actually managed to come up early. It is pretty packed in there. Happy birthday, Ryan.
Hey, Annie. Want to go inside?
Sure.
Yeah.
Door's right over there.
Cool.
And then the size of this place, it was essentially, it looked as if there was an alleyway and they put a roof over it and then a couple more walls and called it a building.
This is a really charming place. I'm gonna go check when Matt comes over.
I'm glad that I could help you take Brian out for his birthday.
Yeah, funny the cover charge was so low in the end. Because that's why you came. What's that over there?
after enough awkward, sort of tense interactions with my now ex, soon to be not ex, we all circle up and there's a dance performance going on. And this was a dance about female empowerment and the sexualization of the female body.
Is this supposed to be about something?
I don't think so.
Then, as she's essentially half dressed at this point, she stops on me and she grabs me by the shirt, pulls me into the middle of the circle. And then throws me on the ground.
Holy shit.
Holy shit.
And at the time, I was, a bachelor of 16 years old, so I was honestly fine with it. Looking back, that's kind of creepy because I was a literal 16-year-old. At the time, I didn't think about this as a performance art piece at all. I thought, oh, I'm in a circle and now I'm groping a woman, meanwhile my ex-girlfriend looks on. This entire time, Annie and Ryan are sort of on the fringe, just looking in, trying to sort of comprehend what's happening, and Ryan's laughing his ass off. Ryan thinks this might be like the funniest thing he's ever seen.
This is the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Annie sort of peels off from the circle at this point.
Need a hand? You have a cute girlfriend.
Dude, are you okay?
I'm good.
Why are you flexing?
Where's Annie?
I think the bathroom.
Oh my god. Hey, did Annie seem weird to you?
That whole thing was pretty weird.
Hi, Annie.
And then finally, at about 12:30 in the morning, the Nat Osborne band comes out.
It's time.
For context here, the last train out of Grand Central to get me home leaves at 1:52 in the morning. And it takes about an hour to an hour and a half to get back to Grand Central from Brooklyn. And I look at my watch, and I look at Ryan, I look at Annie, and I'm like, shit, we need to get out of here.
When your lucky star explodes and you find yourself stuck, having to choose.
It's me on the left, Ryan in the middle, and Annie on the right. And I get a text from Annie. And she goes off on this tangent about how, I knew the woman who was dancing, and she was doing that to make me jealous. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, ... and it worked.
Are we at Grand Central? Excuse me, sir. Are we at Grand Central?
Pulling up now.
How we paying for this? You guys don't have cash? Alright. Don't worry, I got it.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Can you just get me like $20 sometime?
And Ryan Daly ends up spending $40 on this cab to get the three of us back to Grand Central from the concert that we went to for his birthday. We end up buying our tickets and sprinting down to the train. We get to the train and it's completely stopped. Now about 2:15 in the morning, And all of a sudden I see a swarm of drunk white teenagers to get onto this train. And apparently a Miley Cyrus concert had just gotten out. So we are now surrounded by drunk teenagers. The entire place now reeks of alcohol, and we hear an announcement over the loudspeaker telling us that the train is being delayed indefinitely because a man had gotten onto the tracks in Grand Central in the expansive tunnel system, and they had to shut off all electricity to the rails so that the police could try and find this man who was just running around the track. I'm like, okay, we just, busted our asses to get here for the 152, but that's fine. Seeing at this point, it was probably about 2:30, 2:45 in the morning. They're like, given that it's so late, we don't want to force anyone to go outside for any reason. If you want to drink, if you want to smoke or do anything like that, please be our guest and do it in, the main atrium here in Grand Central. I don't think I can ever get this picture out of my head. I see people pull out cigarettes. I see people pull out full fifths of whiskey. I see people pull out joints and blunts. And I see someone doing a line of coke off the banister going up to the Apple store in Grand Central Terminal. Meanwhile, the MTA police are just sort of sitting there. I ended up, it was a weird thing. I ran into a friend of mine that I hadn't seen in a year, and she was on Molly, and she was literally just starting a rave in the middle of Grand Central. It was surreal looking at all these people just sort of doing whatever they wanted in the middle of one of New York City's most iconic and most central landmarks. I was a smoker at this time. I smoked cigarettes at this time. And I desperately wanted to bring myself to smoke a cigarette in the middle of Grand Central, but I couldn't do it because Annie hated that I smoked and Ryan hated that I smoked. I finally decided that my asthmatic ass couldn't take this, and I was like, Ryan, Annie, we're just gonna go back on the train. And at this point, we started calming down. It's probably about 3 in the morning. So Annie and Ryan are sleeping. We finally pull out of Grand Central. We get back to Larchmont, which is my station, and I wake them up. We walk home.
Hey, can I talk to you for a second?
Sure.
And me and Annie dated again until December of that year. We had another tough breakup, and actually during that breakup, I told her, listen, we can't do this whole thing again where we're, on and off. We went to college the next year. We stayed in touch the rest of that year. We were the closest of friends. I believe Ryan Daly fell asleep with his head in my lap, which is pretty standard, although given the circumstances, I thought that was a pretty ironic way to end the night. But if I learned one thing, it was that sometimes you sort of need to go through really intensely awkward and uncomfortable situations in order to come out sort of better on the other side. And back then I tried so hard to avoid uncomfortable interactions. In my daily interactions now, I sort of laugh in the face of uncomfortability because I realize there's really nothing that could be more uncomfortable than what I went through that night.